Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are around the world. We really appreciate your listening today and for your overall support for Global Chamber. We have a very special guest today, and we're going to be talking about an organization that has been a key inspiration for the beginning of Global Chamber. We're speaking today with Sanjeev Khagram. He's the Director General and Dean of Thunderbird School of Global Management. As many of you know, that's a school that has been located in Glendale, Arizona, and it's moving to, and in fact has already moved to Phoenix, Arizona, downtown Phoenix, and I'm sure we'll hear more from Sanjeev about that. He has a very illustrious career, and as many of you who are watching, is intimately involved with Thunderbird School of Global Management. Many of you may have graduated, and just coincidentally, Sanjeev, before I turn the floor over to you, I was in Long Beach, California yesterday for a global event, and one of the last conversations I had was with a lady named Kanak Tandan. And as it turned out, she and her husband both quit their jobs and spent 2 years in Glendale, Arizona, going through Thunderbird School of Global Management, getting their MBA there. Oh. And she talked on and on. I couldn't stop her about how beautiful Thunderbird was and how it changed their lives, and how, despite the fact they both quit high-paying jobs and they had a 4-year-old child, they still, cherished it, they loved it, it's advanced their career in so many ways, and she actually may be watching today, so I wanted to do a shout out for Kanak. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. It's an experience I hear every day from Thunderbird people from all over the world. It's an amazing institution, and now that you've been there for almost a year, let us know you are changing it in even more amazing ways. And you're going to be talking about some programs today that are just extraordinary. So thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for all that you do. And we look forward to hearing more today about the school and its metamorphosis into the next phase to handle the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Thank you, Sanjeev, for everything.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay, Doug and colleagues?
Perfectly.
Okay,
perfect.
Fantastic. Will you put up the presentation, Cesar, that you received? That would be great. Look, first, let me begin before we jump into the presentation to say thank you to you, Doug. Your leadership, your inspiration, the partnership with the Global Chamber. Truly, if there were two, sort of kindred spirits on the planet, about globalism 4.0, about advancing an inclusive and sustainable, prosperous globalism, that is the Global Chamber and Thunderbird. There's no greater partner we have here in Phoenix at the global headquarters and all around the world. And we just want to deepen and broaden that partnership, certainly for years to come. As Doug, you said, it's been quite a turnaround and transformation time. It's actually been, believe it or not, how time flies, nearly 18 months since I started. What we want to share with you is, quite a great story we're very proud of since I started, of bringing back this wonderful brand, this great institution. But I think I'd just pick up on your story about the alums that you met in Thunderbird, in LA from Thunderbird. For the last 16 months, I've been traveling around the world like a global chamber person does, like a T-Bird does, as we call all of ourselves. I just got back from MENA, where I was in Dubai and in Muscat and in Riyadh. I've been to 46 countries in the last 16 months. And everywhere around the world, there is a set of Thunderbirds and Global Chamber folks that are advancing our mission and vision for the world, a world where borders are open, where there's a free flow of trade, of ideas, of people, and cultures, a respect for different cultures. And those are really the core values that I believe, certainly, that bring the Global Chamber and Thunderbird together. So I will sort of give you a sense of what we've been doing, and really want to invite a conversation for most of the time on how we can continue to deepen and broaden our collaboration, as I mentioned. We're looking forward to doing that here in, as I said, in downtown Phoenix, and I'll sort of share in our regional centers that we're setting up in 20 different locations around the world, virtually all of which, I think every single one of which, there is a Global Chamber chapter and an office. So Cesar, do I have the wand, so to speak, or do you, my friend?
I have, so you can just tell me when to move the slides.
Okay. Why don't you go to the next slide? I'm going to say a little bit about my personal background because it's an important part of why I chose to take on the leadership of Thunderbird as part of ASU at this time. Some of you, or many of you, might know that I'm of Indian descent. My great-grandparents were from Porbandar and ancestors beyond that. Porbandar, India, which is in the western coast in Gujarat, where Gandhi's from. In the late 1800s, my family migrated to East Africa. Great-grandparents built the railroads in East Africa during British colonial times, then became merchants and traders and entrepreneurs and business people. My mother's side in Kenya, my father's side in Uganda. By the time I was born, we were the 20th, my father's side was the 20th wealthiest family in Uganda, with concerns in sugar refineries and cotton ginneries and pharmaceuticals and insurance and many other things. Many of you probably have heard of a dictator named Idi Amin that came to power. My family, along with 100,000 other Asian Indian families, were expelled in 1972. We lost everything and my parents left. My grandparents, my paternal grandparents, went back to India. My parents and my sister and I, elder sister and I, fled across the border into Kenya, where my maternal grandparents were, and then were rescued by a wonderful organization that many of you probably know about and maybe have supported, the International Rescue Committee. We were taken to refugee camps in Italy, and after quite a bit of time, were offered political asylum in the United States, and were sponsored by a wonderful family from a Unitarian church who became family to us. And really, that crucible experience for me as an individual and our family, it does connect even today to why I chose to become part of Thunderbird, because sort of my simple kind of analysis, when I was lucky enough, I started my first companies when I was 13. In fact, my parents signed the the papers, but there were gift shops and hotels across New Jersey, and then was lucky enough to get a full ride scholarship to Stanford. And when I got to Stanford, of course, as you're a young person, you're thinking about your identity and where you've come from, and obviously the experience, the expulsion from Uganda was top of mind. And so my analysis at the time, I think accurate, not complete, but certainly still accurate, was that had we had sustainable and equitable prosperity in Uganda, then there would have been no motivation or need or even capacity to expel the Asian Indian population. And so really what we believe at Thunderbird, and I'll come back to this in a second, is a world of sustainable and equitable prosperity. And so today, as we all know, around the world, there are tremendous challenges to the vision of globalism that the Global Chamber and Thunderbird share in common. We know that globalization has done many good things, lifted lots of people out of poverty, incredible technological progress, and many other positives. And yet there also have been downsides. And there's left a lot of people behind. A lot of people are fearful and anxious about what the future holds. And that's led to a rise of nationalisms and parochialisms, localisms around the world that are, at the very least worried, if not trying to prevent further globalism. And so we as a community, as the people who believe in open borders, really need to champion this next wave of globalism, globalization 4.0, as many of us call it. But we have to do it in a way that is more inclusive and sustainable than in the past. Cesar, if I could get to the next slide. So that's one of the pieces of the context behind the sort of reinvention of Thunderbird. A second certainly is the planetary challenges we all face. We know that we've entered a new geologic epoch defined by human influences called the Anthropocene. As it says, and by every measure, humans are really the dominant and predominant species on the planet. We've transformed every part of our natural environment. And just the other day, thousands of scientists, came together in another call concerned, calling sort of the current condition a climate catastrophe. Whether you agree with that type of language or not, we know that climate change is real and transforming every part of the world. And so we, as people who believe in global business and commerce and globalization, have to rise to the challenge and opportunity of these planetary challenges. If I could go to the next slide, Cesar. And third is this fourth industrial revolution. Of course, first industrial revolution was really marked by the steam engine and steam power. The second industrial revolution, very much by coal and oil and the Model T Ford factory. And then the third industrial revolution, very much in the 1970s, 80s, was the digital revolution. And we see these revolutions are coming closer in time to one another, and they are converging in multiple different ways. And this fourth industrial revolution, where we have an incredible pace and sort of simultaneity of technological transformation, from AI and automation to the Internet of Things, blockchain, autonomous vehicles, 5G, drones, wearables. One could go on and on about the technological changes, are creating a set of unprecedented opportunities, but also incredible challenges, as did previous industrial revolutions. We know that there's tremendous possibilities in terms of productivity jumps, in terms of economic growth. But of the jobs that we know that exist today, only 65%, I would say probably even less, will exist 10 or 20 years from now. And the core skills of the future workers of the world are going to be really challenged. And so we have to, as Thunderbird, as a school that's committed to training global leaders, managers, and business people, really take this seriously. And are now, and I think I just lost, Cesar, the presentation. So I see Doug's name here. So I'm sure if you could put it back on.
Yeah, you might need, oh, there it comes. There we go.
Okay, there you go. Thank you very much. If you go, so we have this, so if you put those three together, that's really the context in which we started to think, what could Thunderbird 4.0 at ASU, as we call it, be? Now, just to give you all a sense very quickly about our journey, we were founded in 1946 by wonderful Thunderbird pilots and other incredible folks from Arizona and particularly Glendale, mostly founding fathers, one founding mother. And it was very much about, after seeing the horrors of that great war, World War II, believing that, in the famous phrase of our founders and Lieutenant General Young in particular, that borders frequented by trade seldom need soldiers. Borders frequented by trade seldom need soldiers. And so the American Institute of Foreign Trade was established, what became Thunderbird, out in Air Force Base, as Doug mentioned, in Glendale, Arizona. And who would have thunk this small little startup out in the desert, where they started teaching classes in the hangars, would grow up to be truly one of the great global educational institutions on the planet. And really, it started from Thunderbird 1.0, where a lot of US Americans were brought to the school, were trained in being engaged in commerce and diplomacy. And many of them were not leaders, managers of the Marshall Plan, rebuilding of Europe. With the success of the school, we started to bring in students from Europe and then Latin America and Asia, Middle East and Africa. And now we have 45,000 alumni in 140 countries around the world. And that's just in our degree programs. If we take on all the executives that we've trained through our executive programs and many other activities starting in the 1990s, where we became a top 10 provider of executive education, truly the impact has been hundreds of thousands and really potentially into the millions, because and I'll mention this later, we have a center in Moscow, the Center for Business Skills Development, that's 25 years old, that's trained over 350,000 frontline managers and supervisors, middle-level managers across the CIS since the end of the Cold War. So today, we enter, after joining ASU in 2014, and we think about our focus as really being global leadership, management, and business for the fourth industrial revolution. How do we empower and influence this next generation of global leaders, managers, and business people, including supporting those of you today who are executives or in upper level management to be ready and prepared and fluent and confident about the disruptive transformations that are happening around to advance global business, to advance globalism, to advance a sustainable planet. Our goal is to be the first truly global multinational leadership management and business school in the world. And we're lucky enough to have now the incredible platform of ASU, the #1 university for innovation, 5 years running ahead of Stanford and Harvard and many of the places that I either went to school or taught. It's a remarkable combination. And I guess the one thing I always share with everyone, when you think about Thunderbird and ASU, what you have is the #1 ranked school for management in the world by the Wall Street Journal and Times Higher Education, the survey 2019 that came out several months ago, and the #1 university for innovation. And so you get this incredible combination. Cesar, if we go to the next slide. Go to the next slide if that's possible, Cesar. So, and I'll just start talking to it. Really then, who we are is we prepare future-ready leaders, managers, entrepreneurs, and intrapreneurs across the global private and public sector who advance inclusive and sustainable prosperity worldwide. And we say across both the private and public sector because one of the 45,000 alumni we have, about 45% have entered the public sector or the nonprofit sector. Our alums range from the CEO of Pepsi, Ramon Laguarta, the CEO of BP, Bob Dudley, to the head of the Inter-American Development Bank, Ambassador Luis Moreno, the Minister of Trade of Rwanda, and on and on. It's really a remarkable set. Individuals that lead their global family businesses, that have started up new enterprises and taking them to global scale. It's a remarkable community. And as I said, our focus is very much on maximizing the benefits and minimizing the risks and costs of this fourth industrial revolution that we are in, and that which will accelerate in pace and scale and density and breadth over the next 5, 10, 20 years. Next slide, please. We can go to the next slide, Cesar. So first thing we did was to rebuild and transform our curriculum. And I'm going to go through this relatively quickly and then hone in on a couple of our programs we hope will be very exciting to folks connected to and members of the Global Chamber around the world. So when we were founded, we actually were founded in 1946 with undergraduate degrees. We didn't start our master's degree, a master's in international management, until 1970. That's the degree that became #1 in the US News and World Report rankings. And it wasn't only till the 1990s that we actually converted from the MIM, the Master's in International Management, to the MBA. Well, as we tried to think about the future, we think the MBA has been a great degree, and many of us have it or have taught in those programs, like myself. But we know out there in the world, the MBA is struggling. Even my own, where I used to teach at the Harvard Business School and the Kennedy School, Harvard Business School has seen declined applicants for the MBA. And so there's an increasing demand for a different type of degree. And again, one I believe that's more suited for the fourth industrial revolution. So we kind of went backwards and looked at our great history and said, well, we should have undergraduate degrees too, because we know that young people between the ages of 18 and 25, 18 and 30, they are entering the workforce in tremendous ways, are setting up companies of the future and social enterprises and leading agencies and government, nonprofits around the world. And so we wanted to be part of that Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennial, that group of students. So we have a Bachelor's of Science in International Trade and a Bachelor's of Global Management. We currently have about 300 undergraduates, the West Campus, back near Glendale, and we're growing to 1,000 students. And it's one of the fastest growing undergraduate programs, the two of them at ASU. It's a fantastic set, and a lot of T-Bird alums, along with many others. We have students from nearly 30 countries from around the world in this undergraduate program. So if you have children or grandchildren, nieces or nephews, friends that have children, we'd love for you to tell them about this great set of undergraduate programs that really are, fit for purpose for the 21st century. Cesar, if we could go to let me just, so right there. The Bachelor's of Global Management is also available online. And so, anyone now, and we're really focused on emerging students from emerging markets, but we're getting students. We launched this program only about 2.5 months ago, and we already have 150 students who are taking the online Bachelor's of Global Management. Soon we'll put the Bachelor's of Science in International Trade also on there. And that's going to be a fantastic degree for students all around the world, but certainly those from emerging markets and frontier markets. If we can go to the next slide. So as the next slide's coming up, the core degree that we now have is the Master's of Global Management. The Master's of Global Management is the degree that was ranked #1 by the Wall Street Journal and Times Higher Education. It's on the next slide, Cesar, when you get a chance to flip it. It's really a fantastic degree and really set up for the 21st century. It's 49 credits, 2 years, headquartered here in downtown Phoenix, where our temporary and soon-to-be permanent global headquarters is located. It's an amazing program. It's for early to mid-career professionals, 16 to 21 months. It requires a second language proficiency, which has been a hallmark of Thunderbird that we brought back. It has, and this is the great one, this is the perfect slide, 18 credits of our flagship global leadership courses, global leadership, global strategy, courses on digital transformation, big data, strategy, marketing, finance, of course, cross-cultural negotiations, communications. I'll come back to the applied learning, but then you get to do concentrations in one of actually now 18 different concentrations, as you can see there. Global business, global affairs, global entrepreneurship, global digital transformation, which are taught primarily at the school, and then another 12 to 14 concentrations connected with our sister schools across ASU, whether that's sustainable tourism or creative industries and design thinking, healthcare delivery. We're just finishing up, we're developing one actually with the engineering school and data science. And the idea goes back to what's the degree of the 21st century? What are companies looking for? What's the marketplace looking for? And it's very much this deep technical and substantive skills in certain areas and sectors, skill sets, along with the broad-based global leadership and management skills that you uniquely get, our global mindset. And so the way we really think about it is we provide and offer a digital global mindset for the 21st century, a set of fluencies and skill sets and competencies that allows anyone to be able to be successful in a global world, in a digital world. The 6 credits of applied learning is really our client-facing projects. All students as part of the degree get to do these great group projects, and they're built into the price of the program. They're all over the world. They're with great companies that want to figure out how to, improve their supply chain, or government agencies that want to create more business-friendly and supportive environments, or nonprofits that are working on tackling the world's greatest problems. So this combination of theoretical, practical, sort of global and digital courses and skill sets really provide the unique program that is the Masters of Global Management. Again, that's been ranked #1 because it's so path-breaking and innovative. If we could go to the next slide, Cesar. The next degree I wanted to tell you about was we've launched a new degree in Washington. We're launching a new degree in Washington, D.C. Over the years, we had lots of students come from the D.C. Northeast area, not just domestic U.S. students, but international students who are working there in international institutions like the bank or the fund, certainly in the U.S. government, many other international agencies, international nonprofits, of course, global companies. We've set up a great one-year program that's incredibly flexible. It's every other Friday through Saturday, starting in January of 2020, just coming up, sort of the second or third week of January, we're launching. It's in the Barrett O'Connor Center in downtown, on 18th and H in Washington, D.C., for those of you who know D.C., a central location. And it's a 30-credit one-year degree for folks with more significant experience and who want to advance their careers in one of, we have the 30 credits are 7 courses are in common. We have incredible faculty like Professor Jeff Cunningham, who former publisher of Forbes, a professor of practice with Thunderbird, Anne Marie Slaughter, who was former Assistant Secretary of State in the US government, and many others. Anne Florini is our faculty lead in that program. Was a senior fellow at Brookings and then a professor at Singapore Management University. It's truly a fantastic program. And then you can specialize in one of three tracks: the global law track, which we do in partnership with the Sandra Day O'Connor School of Law here at ASU, and the global policy track, which we do in conjunction with the Watts School of Public Service here at ASU. So after that 7-course core, again, every other weekend, you get to do these tracks. And it's really a fantastic program. And we're still looking for some great participants in that program. What's great about it is you can work, it's for working professionals. So if you have any friends or yourselves that might be interested, please let me know. We have some great, we have a great cohort already lined up, but we'd love to have some global chamber folks in this super program, which again, gets you right into the heart of DC, the nation's capital, and still in many ways the global capital in terms of policy, and certainly for our areas in terms of the global economy. So that's our degree that we're launching in January 2020. If you can go to the next one, Cesar. The last degree that I really want to talk to you about is the next one, which is our Executive Masters of Global Leadership and Strategy. As it's coming up, I'll start telling you about it. It's a one-year degree that's starting in January. It's a completely flipped classroom. It's going to be done in 6 immersive weeks every 2 months from January to December, starting in January 2020. And obviously the next cohort will be January of 2021. The first immersive week is in Phoenix and Los Angeles. The second one in Nairobi, Kenya in March. So January in Phoenix and LA, March in Nairobi, May in Geneva, and then August in Shanghai, and then sort of October in Sao Paulo, and December in Mumbai. The idea is that it's for folks with significant experience, headed to the C-suite or equivalent, with global responsibilities. It's the next slide if you can, Cesar, when you get a chance. And it really provides a completely global experience in an intimate cohort of about 20 to 25, really, sort of senior professionals. There's online content in between the immersive weeks, but it's very much focused on regional business policy environments, understanding how to expand and grow and scale to these markets, understand, cross-cultural communications and negotiations, also weaving in a lot of the technological changes that are happening around the world in similar and different ways in different regions with the 4th Industrial Revolution. So it's truly one of the most exciting degrees we believe that exists anywhere in the world. And together, those 3 degrees, the Masters of Global Management, are sort of flagship degree here in Phoenix over 16 to 21 months. The Executive Masters of Global Affairs and Management in DC, and this degree, the Executive Master of Global Leadership and Strategy, they sort of provide our sort of triumvirate. Of course, we have also a great Executive Masters of Global Management, which is taught every other weekend over 16 months here in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix, for those of you who might want to come here. That's a fantastic program. It doesn't take you around the world in a sort of physical way like this particular one, the Global Leadership and Strategy, does, but it is still one of our fantastic programs, and we regularly have 30 to 40 fantastic students from across the country and around the world do that EMGM. So those are our great degrees. Everything now has our magical triangle of global business and management skills, understanding international economics, politics, international political economy, international affairs, culture and languages, and now we combine the fourth industrial revolution. If we go to the next slide, Cesar, if we might flip through a little bit quicker so we can open it up, but I'm going to try to get through a few more slides to give a sense of all the great things we're doing at Thunderbird. Go ahead, next slide.
I think there may be a little bit of a bandwidth issue with some of
no
these.
problem. Okay, so what I wanted to say is that in addition to our degree programs, we have executive programs, and we're a top 5 provider of executive programs, not only here in Phoenix and in Arizona, but all around the world. We also have these online programs. One of our great online master's programs, our online master's program is the Masters of Applied Leadership and Management. This is a fantastic program. It's 30 credits, can be completed in 12 to 18 months, 100% online with some field seminars that you could do. These are our global challenge labs. These are applied learning. With the masters, the online master's program, it's for students or participants from emerging markets. We have a fantastic price point. It's $18,000 for the entire degree. The idea is we're really trying to take Thunderbird to the world and make it more accessible through our online programs, both the undergraduate and graduate versions. This is all the locations where those applied learning global challenge labs that I mentioned, field seminars take places all over the world. Just gives you a sense of, again, our global reach. Oftentimes they're with partner organizations that are led by our alumni, but also by oftentimes global chamber members around the world. If we go to the next slide, Cesar. These are just a sense of the number of enterprises that we work with, whether who recruit our students or provide internships. And one thing I'd always make a plug for is if in your companies or your networks, there are great internships or job opportunities for Thunderbird grads. They have that global mindset that many, if not all of you, are looking for, that cross-cultural experience, that ability to adapt. These are also companies, most of which that we do executive education programs with around the world. And what's great about what we can do is we deliver in Geneva, in Dubai, in Moscow, in Tokyo, and in these centers around the world that I'll mention in a second. And so we can deliver, and we are working with companies in doing, whether it's Merck or Freeport-McMoRan or ExxonMobil, Uber, so many others. We're going to launch another program with Google. And what's exciting, if you go to the next slide, Cesar, is that we're really developing a new kind of enterprise and leader, future ready with that digital global mindset. And if you go to the next slide, what's exciting about our executive education, unlike any other executive education programs in the world, and they're usually, as you know, 1 day, 2 day, 1 week, 1 month programs, sometimes spread over time, sometimes delivered online, sometimes delivered in person, sometimes hybrid to make it flexible and adaptable for either custom programs for companies or open enrollment, is that we can draw on the full range of faculty and disciplines and assets across ASU. Thunderbird really drives executive education, not only for us as a school, but all of ASU. So we can bring engineers, bioscientists, sustainability folks, health solutions, teachers college, virtually anything that you would want. Our sister school, the WP Carey School, that has such fantastic folks in many areas, supply chain, business analytics, and so on. So we have unparalleled breadth and depth in our executive programs. Go to the next slide. And so we can basically do this slide, and I'm just going to say quickly, is basically we can customize to virtually any need, skill sets, aspirations that a company or a sector has anywhere in the world. We'll go to the next slide. Merck, as I mentioned, was a great example where we're doing a lot of exec education out of our Geneva office across Europe with Merck. Next slide. This is a great partnership with American Express, LifeLock, and the Lagos Business School. How can we better understand the implication of the 14 technologies that are really about the core technologies of the fourth industrial revolution? Next slide. And we're doing a great project with American Express, preparing future-ready leaders in the CSR space and also the international NGO space. And you see some of the fantastic organizations in the public, nonprofit sector and CSR side through that program with American Express. Next slide. Freeport-McMoRan. Here we work with Thunderbird for Good, and Thunderbird for Good is our broader social impact arm at the school. We have the Dream Builder program, the Dream Weaver program, training women entrepreneurs around the world at the bottom of the pyramid. And while the Dream Builder has graduated over 10,000 participants, really we've empowered over 150,000 women entrepreneurs around the world with great content, great programs. Just to give you a sense, for our women entrepreneurs in Latin America, we've created a program where they could do the program through telenovelas. Again, trying to make sure that we are fit for purpose and adapted to regional context and culture. Next slide. And then we're just launching with Dignity Global an customized executive degree in global healthcare management. This is going to be 90%, 95% online in partnership with Dignity Health, which is the largest nonprofit healthcare provider now after its merger with Catholic in the world. The idea is really you get the full Masters of Global Management sort of content experience plus a deep verticals in healthcare management, healthcare supply chain, and so forth. We're doing this in partnership with our School of Nursing and Health Innovation, Health Solutions, and the W.P. Carey School of Business here at ASU. And then the 5% is practicums that are set up in the hospitals, in other clinics, other types, and other healthcare companies, so that to get practical experience. So this is a type of a customized executive education program that we're developing, and our goal is to do this in multiple verticals. So next slide. And of course, you know, the oil and gas sector has been one of our strengths for years and years. We have the Advanced Management Program, which is an online open, I'm sorry, not an online, but an open program, an open enrollment program. If you're interested in the oil and gas sector and in its breadth and depth and its transformation that's happening, but more so the energy sector. We know that it's not just oil and gas, it's the broader energy sector. We've had great partnerships with amazing companies around the world, and lots of folks that are leading either state-owned companies and many others up and down, from very upstream to all the way to downstream in the sector. So overall, our executive education is truly fantastic. And this is where the last few slides I'm going to wrap up. Our goal, as I said at the beginning, is to be the world's truly first global multinational business school. What does that mean? It means setting up regional centers of excellence, hubs around the world. I mentioned Moscow, which trains folks at the bottom, sort of the middle of the pyramid, frontline supervisors, middle-level managers. In Moscow, 25 years. Geneva's been around for 12 years, primarily doing executive education with senior managers and C-suite -1, -2, or equivalent in the public and nonprofit sectors. We have an amazing center in Dubai where we're building partnerships with and client bases with fantastic companies, historically with companies like Sabic, which we're relaunching hopefully in the future. We have an entire chapter of Thunderbird alums in Saudi Aramco, and many others. And so since I've joined, we've grown those 3 centers to now we've added another 6 or 7, Tokyo, Seoul, Washington, D.C. with ASU, Los Angeles, with also ASU with the new Herald Examiner building that we've purchased as a university, Jakarta and Nairobi. And our goal is to get to 20 cities around the world. And the idea really goes back to this idea of that we brought the world to Thunderbird in Glendale. We're trying to take Thunderbird to the world. And our mission is, of course, advance sustainable and equitable globalism. And we believe we have to do that in a global multinational way. The way I say it to our friends and partners and alumni, students and staff, faculty, is that we taught the world to, you know, really be leaders and managers of global multinational enterprises. We didn't run ourselves like one. That's what we're doing. And if we could go to the next slide, in those centers, actually, if you could just even go to the next slide, Cesar. In those centers, we basically have a ramp of educational offerings and services from business and professional English. This is a big demand in Indonesia, for example, in our Jakarta Center, but also in Ho Chi Minh, in Vietnam, where and many other parts of the world, including in Algeria, where we might be launching as well. Entrepreneurship and business skills, bottom of the pyramid, sort of lower middle part of the pyramid, stackable credentials, online programs, both certificates, but also stackable degrees like the online Masters of Applied Leadership and Management, Executive Education, Thought Leadership, and Research. So with our alumni and partners like the Global Chamber, we're setting up these centers around the world. This year, our goal is to launch in at least one in Latin America, either Mexico City or Sao Paulo, and one in India, in Mumbai. And so the goal is, like I said, to have 20 of these centers around the world. And finally, I'll end up with our new global headquarters, which is on the next slide. The heartbeat of all this is our new state-of-the-art global headquarters. We just had the groundbreaking. I want to thank Doug and many other Global Chamber folks who joined us. It's going to be a spectacular new sort of home headquarters for Thunderbird in downtown Phoenix, right between 1st and 2nd Street. We're renaming Polk Street right there, One Global Place, which goes back to the sort of, harkens to our history out in Glendale. It's going to be 5 floors, 110,000 square feet. If you go to the next slide, Cesar, when you walk in, so that's the outside view looking from the south into the building. We're right next to the law school, the Sandra Day O'Connor School of Law in downtown Phoenix, alongside the 14 or 15,000 students that are served by 6 to 8 different ASU schools and units. If you go to the next slide, when you walk into the first floor, you walk into the 4th Industrial Revolution. You're going to be welcomed by a co-robot, AI assistant, human assistant. If you go to the next slide, we have this great global forum where we could do amazing events that we'll do many, which with Doug, you and the Global Chamber here. But what's great about it is you have this digital globe, which at its steady state is going to look like our wonderful globe we had in the Glendale campus, but it's completely data immersive, data visualizations on trade flows, migration flows, environmental changes, anything you can imagine. And then this great global forum where we can have events from obviously thought leadership events to sporting events, connected by a ribbon of 20 screens that you can see there, that you're looking down from the 2nd floor onto the 1st floor. And those 20 screens will be connected to our 20 regional centers of excellence around the world. And so it's going to be a spectacular space, and the cool time between October and sort of March or April in Phoenix, we can open those doors and it can have an indoor and outdoor environment. And so that's going to be pretty spectacular. And then you go to the next slide. We have an innovation lab where we'll welcome not only students and faculty from across Thunderbird and ASU, but our alums, partners from the Global Chamber, the latest data immersive technologies. We're going to have a global situation room, scenario for scenarios that, again, partners can use, table tablets that are going to be completely data immersive to do analytics on, and an entrepreneurship and startup zone. We're going to have a VR and AR language lab because we want to teach languages, not only the analog way, but digital way. So we're really excited about how 21st century and state of the art, this sort of not only ground floor, but the rest of the building will be all of our classrooms. As you walk up, and you can keep flipping, Cesar, as you walk up the 5 floors, you go back in Thunderbird and global history. Each 2 floors connects through a heritage lounge. The first heritage lounge will be Africa and the Middle East, then then Asia, and then Latin America. And then we get to the heart and soul, really the heart and soul of the heart and soul, the pub, which all T-Bird alums around the world will remember from the Glendale campus. But all of those of this is where oftentimes, global business transactions, but also connections across cultures happen. So it's going to be a fabulous building. And so if you go to the final slide, what we have then is at Thunderbird 4.0, as I call it at ASU, this tremendous new set of programs, new faculty that we brought in, like Professor Mark Esposito, who wrote a book called AI, The AI Republic, that went to #1 in the Amazon bestseller in 12 hours just recently, a few months ago. Fantastic new centers around the world, a new global headquarters. So we're really pumped, and we're pumped to be partnering with the Global Chamber and advance this next, era of globalization 4.0 that's truly sustainable and equitable and prosperous, for the entire planet. So thank you, Doug and Cesar and colleagues, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Are we there, everybody? Are you there, Doug? Cesar?
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Fantastic.
Doug is back.
First of all, thank you. Back to the start. Also, apologies. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, it's a little bit of a delay. I think, folks, there's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, we're a little frozen here.
So Sanjeev, this is Cesar. Sorry for that. I had a little bit of trouble with the slides, but then it seems the dog having some trouble today.
No worries.
So I would say, well, while we get Doug back, I would say, if you can tell us a little bit more, or what is the current status of the students in terms of their background? Are they still mainly U.S. students, or what's the
No. Oh yeah, that's a great question. No, that's a great question. Really, Thunderbird made its mark by having at least 50% of its students from around the world. That's where we are now, about 45, 48%. Our goal is to get back to 50, if not higher than that. We have students from 40 different countries, 42 countries around the world, Cesar and colleagues. So we are truly a global school, an international school. The way I always say, we're a global institution, happens to be based in Arizona, where we love to be, but really that's gonna continue to be part of the hallmark of who we are and what we do. You can imagine, given my own background, I often say, had we not been expelled from Uganda, I probably would have went to Thunderbird. We want to expand the range and diversity of our global cohort of students. So really, everywhere around the world. And part of the goal of the regional centers, Cesar and colleagues, is that we're distributing our recruiters out to the field. We're distributing our folks in executive education out to the field. So everything we're doing is to make both our programs and experience here in downtown Phoenix completely global in terms of the student body and cultures and so forth, but everywhere around the world. So it's a great question, Cesar, and just want to, for you and our colleagues, just say that we are 100% committed and we're doing great. We got students from everywhere, Uganda, Vietnam, Brazil, Mexico, Poland, you name it, all over the world, Russia. It's really great. We want to get more and more students from emerging and frontier markets that have never had a chance. So please send them our way.
We'll do our best, and I apologize.
No problem, Doug.
Had a couple technical problems, and Cesar may have mentioned there were some Wi-Fi issues on his end, and there are Wi-Fi issues apparently on my end as well. We're at ASU's facility called SkySong, and so hopefully the new facility has better Wi-Fi.
Well, we want to, yeah, absolutely. And, I don't know, Doug, if we're allowed, but we're really excited to have the Global Chamber in our new building. We see that as a great way of deepening our partnership and being a good partner to you. So, we can't wait. Our building will, as you know, Doug, is going to be opening. Our grand opening will be on April 8th, 2021, when we turn 75 years. And we'll have our first students in there in the fall of 2021, the North American fall, August, September.
But coincidentally, that's my birthday, so it must be kismet and fate for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Fantastic.
There are, and we do have just a couple more minutes, and I'm wondering. We started out with just the passion of the Thunderbird graduate that I was speaking with yesterday. I'm wondering, what epiphanies do you hear from the graduates, and how have you incorporated those feelings, those emotions, those experiences into these new programs?
Well, I really appreciate your asking that question. Like I said, I've been to 45 countries around the world, meeting obviously alums in all of those places. I was the first head of Thunderbird to actually visit our alums in Africa, um, which was a great experience for me, obviously personally going back to my homeland in some ways. Look, what they say to me, Doug, and what we've tried to do, and I hope you see in the short presentation that I've offered today, is let's bring the best of the past of Thunderbird forward while embracing the future. And so everything we've done through our programs, through our strategy, the regional centers around the world, executive education, our partnerships with Global Chamber and many others, with the World Economic Forum and so forth, is to do that. So to give you an examples of sort of bringing the best forward, our experience, even though we're in downtown Phoenix and not in that great old, campus in Glendale, we're doing regional nights. We just had our one on Africa and Caribbean. We had over 300 folks from Thunderbird, ASU, and the community come to that. We want to keep growing that. We brought languages back. We will have undergraduate programs again. Our magical triangle, as I mentioned, global business and management skills, international studies, culture and languages, that's back. But to that, as you've heard me say, we're embracing the 21st century, new technologies, the fourth industrial revolution, being a truly global school, taking Thunderbird to the world in a more active and proactive way. These incredible partnerships, as I mentioned, with the Chamber and the World. We just came out, and if you're interested, Doug and colleagues, with a great paper that we jointly authored with the World Economic Forum on the global governance of emerging technologies. We know that the policies, regulations, norms, laws in these areas rapidly changing. It's very diverse around the world. Everything to enable those technologies and businesses to use those technologies successfully, but also to ensure we protect privacy and all the other challenges. So that's really what alums around the world are energized about, is bringing the best of the past and leaning very much in the future. Look, and everyone knows we had our difficult times at Thunderbird. And what I say to all of our alums and frankly, all of our partners is that you can be proud and confident in this great institution again. We're back on track. We're not only surviving, but we're thriving. But we're just getting started in some sense. We think there's just limitless potential.
Fantastic, absolutely. If you have questions, we do have time for a couple more. The next question is regarding the benchmarking that the school does. You yourself have an amazing educational background, an amazing background, period. But you've got the teaching experience with Harvard. You've got graduate experience with Stanford. These are not small schools. So how do you benchmark versus your competition, and how do you keep Thunderbird ahead of everybody else?
Well, what I always say is that Thunderbird was always the vanguard of the vanguard. And even when I was brought on to Harvard, it was when in the 1990s, post-Cold War, where every school, management, business, leadership school, policy school, was trying to globalize, and we looked to Thunderbird because Thunderbird was the benchmark, and so that's what we're trying to get to again. We want to always be the innovators, the disruptors, the ones that push the entire field forward. So I hope you see that in the way we've designed our programs. We could have, and we're totally supportive of an MBA as a strong degree, but we really believe we had to push forward with the Masters of Global Management, the Bachelors of Science, International Trade, the Executive Masters of Global Leadership and Strategy. So we want to always be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of our wonderful competitors out there. We learn a lot from them. We partner with them in a lot of programs, including executive programs, but we really see ourselves. We still believe, Doug and colleagues, that they're the only place you can truly get in the United States and arguably in the world, we have our competitors, INSEAD and IMD primarily, that you can get a fully global experience from soup to nuts is with Thunderbird. You can get global kind of specializations anywhere. But if you want to be truly global, like the Global Chamber, Thunderbird is the place to be. Global student body, global faculty, global content, global mindset. We're global. That's what we are. That's what makes us. Now you add to that this massive focus on the fourth IR, Industry 4.0, and that combination, that digital global mindset. We don't think there's anywhere out there that's doing that right now.
Yeah, you touched on this point. Arizona State University and Thunderbird have created a relationship that helps secure the future. So you talk about kind of where things are headed. So could you talk a little bit about that relationship, and how does that help Thunderbird graduates going forward?
Absolutely. I mean, look, President Crow has been a stalwart, as you know, Doug and colleagues. He really always thought the world of Thunderbird, and he's been, and for me, you know, someone I've known for a long time. So it starts let me just give you a couple of examples. It starts with our degree programs. Our undergraduates and our graduate students have access to all of ASU. That's incredible, right? So, you know, you're coming to do a global MBA, a global MGM, the Masters in Global Management, but you can take classes anywhere in the university. You know, we're never going to be a top class supply chain faculty. That's just not our strength right now. But the Carey School is right there, and you can take courses at the Carey School. If you want to learn more about policy and the policy environment, you can go over to Watts. If you want to do data science, we can get you connected with engineering. You can get virtually anything at ASU. Second is the entrepreneurial innovation and growth mindset that ASU certainly has, and of course we have at Thunderbird. So it's sort of like doubling down, tripling down on that sort of growth mindset. It's really remarkable. And then just the sheer muscle of ASU. You know, as many of you know, when President Crow took over ASU 15, 16 years ago, it was a $700 million a year university, $500 million from the state of Arizona. Now it's a $3.6 billion university, only $200 million from the state of Arizona. We're working all over the world in partnership with ASU. Our global expansion, our online programs, our executive programs, all of those benefit. And inversely, the Thunderbird brand, our alumni network, our approach to global mindset really helps ASU realize its 8th design aspiration, which is to be a truly global university. So it's a great combination. It's a match made in heaven.
So the two new programs then, maybe let's wrap up the hour by maybe re-summarizing those and where people can go for information. And I think there's also a scholarship available for Global Chamber members. So we really appreciate that opportunity, and it certainly, you know, is an inspiration, hopefully, for many people in the global tribe to jump in and give these two programs a try.
That is true. So the two programs are the DC program, the Executive Masters of Global Affairs and Management, launching in January. We have a 20% scholarship that we're giving to the Global Chamber members. So if you're interested in that program, you can certainly reach me. You can go via Doug or Cesar. You can get online onto the website. We'd love to have you. The other one is the Executive Masters in Global Leadership and Strategy. That's the one that goes to multiple cities around the world, which is truly a global experience. Again, another 15-20% scholarship for Global Chamber folks. Again, this is part of our commitment to being great partners to the Chamber. And, you know, we're in a common, I think we all agree, we have a common vision and mission of the world and how we bring it together and advance prosperity. And so anything we can do to support any of you and your networks to be part of our programs, to feel empowered by them, we'd love to do that. Those two programs we're very proud of because, again, you go right to the heart of kind of, you know, obviously U.S. politics and economics, but global politics and economics in D.C., or you go all around the world and have that great experience. So let me know if I can be, you know, just reach out to me via Doug or Cesar, get onto the website. We'd love to have you. And we want to make sure that it's accessible to all Global Chamber members. So thank you, Doug. Thank you, Cesar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for taking this time, this 1 hour, really full of really great information about the school. Didn't fully know your story in the beginning, and I think that now makes me understand you a lot better, and your passion, what fires you up, and how you've impacted this school so strongly. So thank you very much for your collaboration. Thanks for the information. And those of you, as Dean Khagram mentioned, getting a hold of us, we'll certainly be having information sent out to you. But if in the meantime you'd like to have information, send it to info@globalchamber.org, and we'll be happy to direct you to the right people, which we've already started to do. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Sanjeev, and thanks for all that you do.
Oh, thanks, Doug. Thank you. And really, I think the last thing I'd just say is, as you know, Doug, Thunderbird is much more than just a school or an institution. It's a global family like the Global Chamber. So we see this as bringing two great families together. We'd love to have more chamber folks part of our programs and part of our global family. So thank you, and Cesar and everyone else. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, wherever folks might be.
Thank you, family. Take care.
Bye now.